Hi, I'm Pete, and this is a tutorial for the 3x3x4 cuboid.
So here's the 3x3x4 cuboid. This is a very important cuboid because knowing how to solve this opens the door to so many other cuboids, such as the 3x3x2, the 3x3x6. You'll actually be able to solve this as soon as you've learned how to solve this one. It also gives us a pathway to learn how to solve the 4x4x5, which is a lot of fun. And where we're actually going with this series, the 5x5x4, there's a few extra steps, but knowing how to solve the 3x3x4 puts you well on the path to being able to solve this fun puzzle. Now this basic cuboid strategy is also one of the steps that you will use in solving some of these cubic cuboids, I guess you would call them, where the layers move, but then the puzzle can also shapeshift a little bit. So if you learn how to solve this, you'll be very far down the road in being able to solve this type of puzzle. And then, of course, I think if you are interested in shape-shifting cuboids, then this type of solution, it actually starts with some different strategies, but ultimately you'll be using a lot of the things you learned from the 3x3x4 to solve these shape-shifting puzzles. So that's the reason you should learn how to solve this. Now you may wonder why we don't start with the 3x3x2, and the reason is that the first two layers that we're going to solve on the 3x3x4 is a 3x3x2. So if you have one of these, you can just follow along until you run out of layers, and then this will be solved. If you don't have a 3x3x4 puzzle, you can use a 4x4 cube or a 4x4x4. And when you go to scramble it, just don't split it down the middle. Only do R2 turns and any F2 turns. So treat it as if it was a cuboid, and as long as you don't split any of the middles like this, then these two pieces will act as one, these will act as one, and these will act as one, and so they will correspond to these pieces on your cuboid. So you can use a cube if you don't have one of these. Let's talk about what you need to know to be able to get the most out of this tutorial. It would be very helpful if you knew how to solve a 3x3 cube, just a regular cube. You could be using the beginner's method. It doesn't really matter. As long as you can solve a cube, then you'll be fine. This puzzle isn't any more difficult than a Rubik's Cube. It might even be a little easier. Now the next thing we should talk about before we get started are the characteristics of the 3x3x4. It has a square face, the upper layer, and the lower layer is square. Now yours may be colored differently. That's okay. Just remember, or for the purposes of this tutorial, the upper face will be the square and the lower face will be the square. Okay, and then the side faces will be the rectangles. Now one of the main characteristics of this type of cuboid is that the upper layer turns in 90-degree increments, and the bottom layer also turns in 90-degree increments, but the sides don't turn in 90-degree increments. So the only thing you can do is a 180-degree turn, and then you can turn it, and that's true of all of the sides. The other thing is that this puzzle doesn't shape shift, so in some ways it's it's a little easier because you don't have to get it back to cuboid form before you start. You can just start solving the puzzle. The other thing that having just an R2, having a 180-degree turn on the side, means that you can only ever have top and bottom pieces on the top and top and bottom pieces on the bottom, and that means that these middle layers here can only have the 4 colors that are part of your puzzle. They can't have any white pieces on the side here or any yellow pieces. One of the things that you'll need to know for your 3x3 cuboid before you get started is what your color scheme is. You need to know especially the faces, what order the colors appear in. And so I have a color scheme. It's a standard Rubik's Cube with white and yellow opposite, and then looking from the yellow side, I have blue, orange, green, and red, and that's a standard Rubik's color scheme. But if yours is different, you really need to decide, first of all, the square ends are going to be the top and the bottom, so just pick a color, maybe the light color on the bottom and the darker color on the top. Now, traditionally Rubik's Cubes are solved, even though we consider the white to be the top and the green to be the front. These are typically Rubik's Cubes are solved with the white on the bottom and the yellow on top. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's because you flip it over when you're done. In any case, you need to know your color scheme. So maybe you could just jot it down. And you need to know your color scheme from the yellow end. So blue, orange, green, and red is my color scheme. And that's all you really need to know about it. Now, just to be clear, when I'm doing the notation here and when I'm doing the turns, because the top can turn 90 degrees, then a U, which is what we call it, a U or upper, is just a 90-degree turn. But when I say R, or when I put an R on the screen, that means a 180-degree turn. It doesn't mean just a 90-degree turn, because it's not a valid turn for this puzzle. Okay, so I will remind you as I go through that. It's just there's really no point in putting R2 on everything, because all of the R turns would be R2 if we did that. So before we get started, we should get some terminology straight here. This is the 3x3x4 cuboid. The names for the pieces could be just a little bit confusing, so I'm going to try and straighten it out for you here. Keep in mind that the way we solve this is by assuming that the middle 2 layers are a 3x3x2 cuboid, which means that on the 3x3x2 cuboid we have these centers, we have corners, and we're going to view these as centers and these as corners. Even though there are only 2 stickers on them, they should probably be called something else like edges, but I will tend to refer to them as corners because that's how I think of them. Okay, so I don't want to be confusing, but we might as well just get that clear. These are more obviously corners, and that is they correspond directly to the 3x3x2. Now these pieces in the middle, I'm going to call them centers, and again, because of the correspondence to the 3x3x2 cuboid, I'm calling those centers as well, even though you look at it and they really do look more like edges. But it just, to be consistent, that's a center, and therefore that's a center, and so is that. So this is an overview of how we're going to solve this 3x3x4. What we're going to do is treat the inner 2 layers as if it was a 3x3x2. We'll solve those, and then we'll kind of ignore these inner 2 layers, and then we'll solve the outer 2 layers also as if we were solving a 3x3x2. So that's our strategy. So basically we're going to just do a 3x3x2 solve twice. Now there are a couple of complications, but those are we'll deal with them when we get there. Now there's only a few algorithms for this, and they're fairly short. It's a great idea to memorize these algorithms because they are used so often in cuboids, or at least to write them down on a reference sheet that you will have with you when you're solving cuboids. Now I am going to mention that some of the algorithms refer to U, the upper layer, and they refer to D. But if we're working on one of the middle layers, then we're going to have to consider U to be everything from that layer up, and we'll have to consider D to be everything below from that middle layer down. So that can maybe seem a little confusing, but I'll remind you as we go through it. So just watch for that. If I say U, but I'm turning the top 2 layers, it's because we're working on the middle, the inner layers. Alright, well, we can get started with the scramble. Remember, there are only 180-degree turns on the sides, but each of these layers can turn in 90-degree increments, which means that we can also turn the layers and scramble it up. Okay, well that's good and scrambled. So we're back from the scramble, and we're going to start by solving the middle 2 layers as exactly as if it was a 3x3x2 cuboid. And the first step in that process is to put the centers in this bottom layer here. So I know my color scheme. This is yellow, and so looking from the yellow, I need a blue. I'm going to look around until I find a blue. There is no blue. So I'll find one here, and because this is the very first step, I can just go ahead and turn the face, and now I have my blue. Well, now I know that I need an orange on this side, and I don't have an orange there. So I'm going to look around this layer, and I see an orange. So what I'm going to do is just turn the orange to be above where I need it, and just turn the face around. Okay, so now I have blue, orange, and I need a green right here. There's the green. There's the other green. So what I'm going to do, blue, orange, green, I'm just going to turn this green above where I need it and just turn the face around. This is the only time in the solve where I can do this because we're just getting started. So there's the green. And red, I need red, and there's one above, so there we go. Alright, well, let's see what we've done here. I have blue, orange, green, and red, and those are my centers for the D layer of the middle 2 layers of the cuboid. Now I'm going to insert the corners. And the corner insertion algorithm is probably the most important cuboid algorithm that you're going to learn. Well, maybe they're all important, but this one is very versatile and you can use it all over the place. So the way I start is I look at the front right corner and I find a sticker color, blue, and then the right sticker is red, and so I'm looking for a blue-red corner. But the corner insertion algorithm, the one that takes a corner from the top and puts it in the bottom, flips the corner upside down, which means that we need a corner sitting up here that is red and blue. So red and blue. So I'm just going to turn things around here, and oh look, I have one right here, red and blue. Now sometimes when you first get started here, the corner you need is in the bottom layer already. So if that's the case, if you look around and you don't find the corner you need, just rotate the cube and cuboid and find another corner to try, and eventually it'll work itself out. So now I have the corner I need above the spot where it goes, and the stickers are opposite, and I'm going to do the corner insertion algorithm, and that is R, U, R, U prime, R. And there we go. The corner is in its proper place and it's in the right orientation, and all we did was we swapped this, and now that one's available to put in one of the other corners if we need it. So this is how the bottom layer goes now. The next one is going to be red and green, and you can do these in any order. Sometimes people would turn the upper layer and look for a corner and then find where it goes. That can also work too. But anyway, red and green. So I'm just going to turn this until I find, there we go, green and red. And keep in mind that we have to have the colors reversed because we're going to flip it over. So red and green. So I'm going to do the corner insertion algorithm again, which is R, U, R, U prime, R. And there we are. We have another one in. Well, let's keep going. I have green and orange, and we have the corner we need, orange and green, and I'm going to put it in R, U, R, U prime, R. Very handy algorithm, isn't it? So look at that. Oh, we have one more to go. Almost done. Orange and blue, which means we need a blue and orange. It just it's no surprise that it would be sitting right up there waiting for us. So we're going to put this corner into this slot here. R, U, R, U prime, R. Awesome. Look at that. Now we have this entire bottom layer done. Well, that's the first step. Now we're going to do the upper part of the middle two layers here. This corresponds to the upper part on the 3x3x2 cuboid. And the way we do this is we actually start with the corners. And we're looking for two corners that are the same and on the same face. And we don't have them. So this is the other case. There are two cases you can get. And this is the case where you have a corner that's correct, and then its diagonally opposite corner is correct. So that's the diagonal corner case, which means that we have to swap this corner and then the one that's diagonally opposite with is that corner. So we're going to do the diagonal corner swap algorithm. We put one of the corners that we need in the front right, and the other one will be in the back left. And now we'll do the algorithm. Now I want to make sure it's clear that when we have a U, we're working on this layer here. So anything that's a U in the algorithm, we're going to turn the entire top of the cuboid, including the layer that we're working on, but everything above it. That would be considered U in the algorithms. And for any D's that we have, this is our D layer we're working on right here, but we're going to turn the D layer to also include everything below the D layer that we're working on. Okay, that's a very important concept in cuboids, that your U layer is whatever layer you're working on and everything above it, and your D layer is the D layer you're working on and everything below it. Okay, so we're ready to apply this algorithm and to swap the diagonally opposite corners. And that is going to be R, U prime, R, U prime, R, U, R, D prime, and remember, everything below, R, U, R, U prime, R, D, R. And we have swapped these two corners. This one's correct, that one's correct, and now all of our corners are correct in the upper layer. So we finished the bottom layer, and the next step is to match up two corners in the upper layer. Now there are two possibilities. You've seen one of them. The other one, the more typical one, is you have two adjacent that are the same color, and you just turn them until they match up with their counterparts in the bottom layer. You're always going to have two, either adjacent or diagonally opposite. You've already seen the diagonally opposite. But when you have two that are adjacent, then it means that the other two have to be swapped. And the opposite swap algorithm is, we'll just do it right now. Keeping in mind that this is D and that's U. Okay, so here we go. Put the two corners to be swapped on the right hand side and do this. So it's R, U, R, U prime, R, U prime, D, R, U prime, R, U, R, D prime, and now we have the corners in the upper inside layer done. The next step will be to get the centers in this layer. So we have our bottom inner layer, we have our top layer, inner layer corners, and now we want to get these centers. Now these centers can come, there are two possibilities for them. You either have them so that you need to do an adjacent swap, or you do an opposite swap. And in some cases you get a variety, you get different things. So it's just a matter of looking around and deciding how you're going to apply the two different algorithms. And it doesn't really matter. If you can get one correct, then you can just keep doing the algorithm and it doesn't hurt anything. So in this case I have an orange here and an orange there, and then this is a red, so it's not really going to help me to put it there, but at least I'll get one correct, and that'll be a start. So this is an adjacent swap, and I'm going to put one of the centers in the front, one on the right, and then I will do the adjacent swap algorithm. Now I'm going to tell you something about the adjacent swap algorithm. It's long, but the second half of it is the corner swap algorithm. Yes, that's right, the corner swap algorithm. So there's a little bit at the beginning, and then it just turns into a corner swap. And and you'll actually see it because this corner will be different. So let's try it. It's R, U, R, U, R, U2, R, U2. Now it's the corner swap. R, U, R, U prime, R. And it's sort of hard to see what happened because the red is here, but notice we put the orange in. So now that one's correct, which means that we still have three centers to get sorted out. So what I'm going to do now is, that's red, and this is the green face here, and that's green. So I'm going to go ahead and do an opposite swap just to show you, and that will put the green where it belongs, but then the red will be over here on the blue face, but then we can finish off with a adjacent swap. So I'm going to do the opposite swap, and the opposite swap is the one of them on the front and the other one on the back, opposite. The opposite swap algorithm is pretty straightforward, keeping in mind that this is U because we're on the inner layers. Here we go. R, U2, R, U2, R, U2. Now it doesn't seem like it's done much, but remember we put I think it was the green here, and lo and behold we have the green in the back. So what's left is we have red here and blue here, so I just have to do one more adjacent swap and then we'll be done. Now the adjacent swap, if you remember, it has 4 moves, and then we go into the corner swap. So let's try and remember those 4 moves. It's R, U, R, U, R, U2, R, U2, and now we got a corner swap. R, U, R, U prime, R. And there we go. We have the middle 2 layers done. What we've done here is solve the equivalent of a 3 by 3 by 2 cuboid in the middle. Awesome. So if you were just working on one of these, you'd be done. But there's 2 more layers on our 3x3x4 cuboid, and we're just going to go ahead and solve them in the same way as we did these middle 2 layers. One little complication will show up, but we'll deal with that. So we've solved the middle 2 layers exactly like a 3x3x2. Now we're going to solve the outer 2 layers. Now this is going to be our U and this is going to be our D. And we'll use exactly the same algorithms and strategy as we did with the middle 2 layers. One little thing's going to crop up, but we'll fix it. Okay, so we have our centers in the bottom layer in place, and now it's time to put the corners in the bottom layer in place. And the nice thing about this is it's very easy to see which ones belong because they also have a sticker on them. They have more than just the 2, they have 3 stickers, so we can see where they go. Now it looks like this one's in place, but it's actually the wrong corner. But that means that we need to get that corner out of there before we can use it somewhere else. Okay, and it just naturally, it just tends to work itself out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to grab a, just going to decide on a corner. Here's the green, the red and green. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the top until I find the red and green corner, remembering that green and red, it has to be the opposite sticker colors because we're going to flip it over. Now I will warn you that when I do this algorithm, because we now have a middle layer, it's actually going to flip this middle layer over, and it's not a problem as long as you don't spin the cuboid. As long as you don't spin the cuboid around, as long as you keep the flipped side over here, eventually it will work itself out. Okay, so this is your front face for the rest of the corner solve for the bottom layer. You'll only move the bottom layer and the top layer. Don't spin the cube around. Cuboid. So green and red going here. R, U, R, U prime, R. Well, let's take a look. Red, green, corners in place. Indeed, we have flipped. This is the orange. That's the red, orange face, red face. So we've flipped this strip of pieces around. Don't worry about it because the next time we put a corner in, it'll flip them back. But we have to be sure to keep this flipped face on the right side. If we start turning the cube around, we'll get another flip face and then it really makes a mess. So let's just find the next one. This is red. This is red and blue. So this is red and that's blue. Now notice I moved the bottom and the top, but I'm keeping the front face exactly where it belongs. So now I'm going to put this one in. It's going to insert this corner here and it's going to flip that face back. R, U, R, U prime, R. And there we go. It's flipped it back. Now it doesn't look like it's flipped it back because we've moved the bottom layer, but now you can see it lines up much better. Let's put this next one in here. This is green and orange. There's orange, there's green. That's where it goes. We're going to do this. Now it'll flip it over again. Oh my, are we getting worried? Because if we flip it over one more time, what are we going to do? Well, you'll see. Here we go. R, U, R, U prime, R. Okay, it put that one in, it flipped it over. Oh my. But look, we had one that was already there, and now it was exchanged, and now it's on the top. So I just have to find the blue and orange corner. There it is. And I can put the blue and orange corner in and it'll flip the face around. R, U, R, U prime, R. And now I'm safe to turn things around, and there we go. We have the bottom 3 layers done. Now, does it ever happen that you're stuck with the face flipped? It could happen And if it does happen, what I would suggest you do is finish the top layer, because doing some of the work on the top layer will also flip that face, and it should work out. But if it doesn't, at the end of this I'm going to show you a way to flip it around without changing any other pieces. Okay, so if you did find it upside down right now, one of the faces, you could go ahead and flip it using that algorithm that's at the end of this video, but you don't have to. Okay. So the next step then is going to be the top layer, and we're going to do that exactly the same way as we did the inner top layer. So we're doing the top layer. This is U now. This is D because we're dealing with just these layers. And the strategy is the same. We look for two corners that have the same color sticker, and we rotate it until they match the face. So that means that these two corners have to be swapped. This is an adjacent swap. You'll remember that the other possibility is that we have two that are diagonally opposite that match, and then we have to do a diagonal swap. But in this case, it's an adjacent swap. I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you the case of the diagonal swap. So adjacent swap. Now remember, this is U and this is D because we're working on those layers. So it is R, U, R, U prime, R, U prime, D, R, U prime, R, U, R, D prime. And that swapped the upper layer corners into their proper spots, and then all we're left with are centers to be put in place. Okay, before I do that, I'm going to show you the other case. As we're doing the top layer, the other case you get is for the corners is that one corner is correct and then the diagonally opposite corner is correct, which means that we have to swap this corner and then this diagonally opposite corner. So what you do is you put the corner that needs to be swapped, one of them in the front right and the other one in the back left, and then you do the diagonal corner swap algorithm. And that is, keep in mind this is U and this is D, so the diagonal corner swap algorithm is R, U prime, R, U prime, R, U, R, D prime, R, U, R, U prime, R, D, R. Now that may seem like a lot, but if you practice this cuboid and you work on other cuboids, you'll learn this very quickly because there is a pattern to it. Alright, well, the next thing will be to finish the centers, and then we'll be done. Okay, we're almost finished the last layer of the cuboid, and we are just going to do the centers now. And we have one center that's in place, and there are three centers that are out. But on cuboids, we don't have a three cycle of the centers, or the edges as they would be called. We have to either do opposite swaps or adjacent swaps. So in this case, we can do an opposite swap. That will put the blue where it belongs, the red will be here, and then with red here, orange here, we can do an opposite swap. So we're going to do both of those. Now keep in mind that doing this causes a flip on the right hand side face of these middle two layers. Doing one swap causes the flip, and doing another swap causes a flip. So as long as we do an even number of them, everything will be fine. And if for some reason you end up with everything solved but the face flipped, right at the end of the video I'll show you how to fix that. Alright, here we go. Let's do an adjacent swap. One piece on the front, one piece on the side, and this is the one that has the corner insertion algorithm in the second half of it. Ready? R, U, R, U, R, U2, R, U2, and now the corner algorithm. R, U, R, U prime, R. This did flip things over. Don't worry about it. The only thing you have to be careful of here is that you only turn the top. Don't turn the cube, because if you move this, then it'll make a mess of our middle layer. So this piece is where it belongs. This piece is where it belongs. We're going to swap them. That'll also flip this side. And the opposite center swap algorithm is the fun one. That is R, U2, R, U2, R, U2. Awesome. And we are done. Okay, I'm going to show you the face flipping algorithm in case you ended up with that situation. And that's that for the 3x3x4 cuboid. So we have the one final little thing to do here. Sometimes this happens where you end up with these edges out of place. They're swapped around, and there's an algorithm to fix that. This algorithm is good for even layered cuboid faces. So in this case we have 4 layers, so we're fine. And what it does is it flips these edges around, but it also flips the centers, and that's important to know. So this center will end up here, and vice versa. This edge will go over here, that edge will go over there. It's a very useful algorithm for cuboids, and it'll get you out of all sorts of problems as long as you understand what it does. So here's the algorithm, and the first one is a U2, the top half of the cuboid. Then an R, which is actually a 180 degree, an F, which is also 180 degree, and now what we want to do is we just want to turn this slice 180 degrees. So there's a couple ways to do that, but basically the easiest way is just to hold the top steady and then turn the slice. So now I've turned this slice 180 degrees. Okay, the other way is to turn the whole top and then turn the U back. Okay, so we've done that, and now there's another F. And then we'll do the whole U2. And that's it. So we've solved the cuboid. So the 3x3x4 cuboid is solved. And now you should be able to solve the 3x3x2. You could certainly solve the 3x3x6 just by solving the 2 inner layers, and then solve these 2 inner layers, and then solve the 2 outer layers. Okay. So you also have a good start for solving the 4x4x5 and the 5x5x4. There are some extra steps you have to do, but basically we're going to do all the steps you learned here in just a couple extra steps. Okay, so look for one of these as an upcoming video. Now, if there's something that you still don't understand, if there's a question you have, if I didn't explain something well, please leave a comment on the video, and I will do my level best to answer. Thanks for watching.